Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about the comprehensive astrology picture for August 2023. I hope you're all doing really well. In this video, I will be talking to you about the intuitive messages that I'm having about the month of August, and then I will walk you through some of the transits astrologically that we're having throughout the month. So if you're new, be sure to hit the subscribe button below, like this video, and turn on the bell notifications. Okay, everyone, let's talk about August 2023. It's kind of a fast-moving re-establishment of order I feel that we have coming during this time. If you're really on and really connecting to your higher capacity during this time, you will see that you have complete resolution in small areas. This month, of course, we will be having Mercury going retrograde on the 23rd, so it's going to be important to be working with Virgo season in mind this year. It's going to be really nice feeling to enter Virgo season on the 21st, right before the retrograde coming on, with a knowing that we have a certain path that is somewhat guaranteed, as well as well-functioning sixth house aspects in our life. So well-functioning circadian rhythms, well-functioning household systems, well-functioning meal prepping, clothing, any type of body care routines, any type of health care routines. It'll be really good in this month of August to be focusing here and in small areas. So as I'm meditating on the energy of August 2023, that feels like one of the strongest home runs that we can make during this time is to really condense down and work on the small details here. The Mercury retrograde that we have coming at the end of this month during Virgo season, with Mars moving into Libra towards the end of the month as well, Uranus retrograde happening, okay? That is going to scramble some things, okay? That's going to bring some new issues to the forefront. I'm not saying that these issues are negative or that they're not going to be good. For some people, these are going to be blessings coming into their life, or things get so scrambled or so shaken up that it just removes certain obstacles out of the way, or we're forced perhaps even to embrace more peaceful systems and more peaceful life paths. So that's what August is going to be all about this month. It's going to be totally hinging on order in the systems of your life. So whatever we need to do to work on those things will be supported during this month. Also, I'm feeling intuitively that August and September, both of 2023, are some of the most body-oriented months of this year. So a lot of us will be called to bring more harmony between the body and the mind. We've been very mind-oriented ever since 2020. And of course, having Uranus in Taurus has made it's kind of hard to explain, but of course, Taurus is a sign of the body. Uranus is the sign of the mind at a very high octave level. So it's automatically been bringing these two things into polarity and achieving or attempting to achieve a greater balance between body and mind. So whatever you can do to find more harmony here, I find for a lot of people it's important to get out of the house, or it's important to work on calibration techniques. So for some people that's like martial arts or some type of physical activity that brings the body and the mind more into conjunction. The question of where consciousness is nice and healing to think about during this time. A lot of people think about consciousness actually being in the stomach, okay? And then some people also talk about the way that trauma or the way that difficulty or pain stores itself in certain areas of the body. For that reason, I think that this month of August would be a very good time for things like deep tissue massage, working muscle groups that perhaps have not been worked in a long time. If you have any type of body imbalance, like if you have one type of exercise that you do that is like really focusing one area of the body, but then there are maybe other areas that don't get worked out, it's good to implement better balance. We have our first full month here of the new nodal axis, so North Node in Aries and South Node in Libra. I've made a full video about that, talking about all 12 signs, which I will link below. But yeah, we have the South Node in Libra, so our entire bodies, right, with the North Node in Aries too, very body-oriented North Node, are being rebalanced during this time. So it's a very powerful month to just start strong with any type of body rebalancing regimes. And maybe it's like boring for some people to talk about. This isn't going to be a month that's like, super climatic and for some people like mysterious or strange or, kind of like just something that's fictitious. This is going to be a very real month that prepares us, yes, to have those types of magical stories in the future. The South Node in Libra is going to really reveal the areas, whether it's in our body, in our home, in our life, that have gotten like over-focused or over-prioritized during South Node in Scorpio. And it's now going to start to redistribute or reappropriate some of that energy into other areas. So what you can also expect in the month of August 2023 is to see that certain areas in your life that had hollowed out or didn't have the needed attention, maintenance, or expression, those will start to come to the forefront now. And I think that that's one of the more important predictions that I can tell you guys about for August is, that which has been procrastinated, that which has not been given attention may now become front and center. And that which also has been like constantly focused on or constantly worked on and has taken up a lot of your bandwidth as a person may go more to the sideline now. So this is very common with like the month after a nodal paradigm shift, where, because that's literally what I've just described as a paradigm shift. So things which were once paid attention to are now not the main focus, and now a new grouping or a new energy source becomes main focus, but it's also way more holistic, okay? I talked in the nodal paradigm video about how the previous Taurus Scorpio nodal axis made it very likely that you had a certain like surgical focus on certain aspects of your life. There were these like emergencies and highly important events that had to come up. And we will be tested in August about the degree to which we were actually able to solve those things while not like having other things that were not problems basically take on that highly wounded energy. So like the ability to truly heal something, was it there over the last year and a half? I also feel that it's important to be reminded every day of what you did accomplish over the last few years. So it's very nice to symbolize your accomplishments here during August as you go into perhaps a more mundane healing process here, a more sixth house healing process. The collective has basically signed up for that with this oncoming Mercury and Uranus retrograde. There's a more sixth house, during Virgo season, more sixth house oriented looking back and change orientation here. So like for that reason, if you're somebody who is on a super, self-empowerment path or doing something really lofty or really ambitious, you might dial back a little bit now and remind yourself that it's happened, symbolize it for yourself, like put things on the wall or give yourself some type of nice symbolism of what you've done while you basically detach from it. Again, this kind of gives this holistic feeling of focus and this holistic healing process. It makes that more possible. Also, one of the main key concepts that I received while meditating on the month of August 2023 is path clearing. Okay, path clearing. So Mercury and Uranus going retrograde at a similar time, just being such strong archetypes in general, both Mercury and Uranus, Mercury being the lower octave of Uranus, they're very similar energies. I feel that it's such an electrical energy that we've been in over the last few years, and there's been so much generation of really like a chaotic type of energy, that what can happen now in August is that really electrifies itself, and it may really knock some things around or scramble things up, but it could also clear the path, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to describe what I'm feeling there, but it's almost like the path being full of debris or kind of like, unimportant things, and then all of this electric energy generates and clears a lot of that debris out of the way, though the path is maintained and the path is still known to be what it is. That's really the perfect balance point for this path, but dissecting that a little bit more, that does mean that a lot of debris needs to be cleared out of the way during August. We can then interpret further on that. Is it physical debris? Is it excess, waters of the body, like a bloating or like weight? Is it also like clutter in the house? Is it a confusion about the current goal that's set? Is it kind of like not having a current goal and kind of spinning around in circles? That's how I'm feeling that interpret in a very real way as like a higher quote unquote debris in life. So August is going to start clearing that out, especially if Uranus is transiting your chart in any way. So fixed signs, conjunctions, squares, and oppositions, heads up, there's going to be some debris clearing out during August. And there probably already is. Pay close attention also to things which are strained or kind of like put too much pressure upon, because that could in some way be an area where there is debris. So keeping a close eye on what tangential action, tangential speaking, tangential money spending, anything, because that's very Uranian energy, right? Like kind of buzzing, or if you've ever seen electricity, okay, maybe go on YouTube and just look at like electricity, okay, and how it acts and what it's like in the earth plane, lightning or, electrical wires that get, where you can actually see the electricity. It's a very, it's not a super linear. I mean, a lightning strike is linear, but it usually has a lot of branches off of it, and a lot of the energy scatters, okay? So that's one of the energies that we're in right now, is a very electrical energy with Mercury and Uranus doing what they're doing. And yeah, there's a lot of grounding with Uranus being in Taurus, right, in the Earth season that we're moving in. So lightning and electricity, very strong during this time. And because of that makes me also think of the central nervous system, of course. That makes me think of humans being electrical beings who are constantly seeking like grounding to further heal and electrify themselves. And it is through electricity that any of our energy kind of comes from as well, like the ability to move, the ability to speak, the ability to really energize on the earth plane comes in some way through an electrical grid. Also, the electricity grid, the wires that go like under the ocean, that like, for example, connect Europe and North America. Something could be there. Also, things like cyber attacks, things like, that is probably something that could be coming up during this time as well. So cybersecurity could be very important. Any type of security, I could see with these retrogrades, and also Pluto being right on this cusp point of Capricorn and Aquarius. There's also a possibility of what now seem like very consolidated grid lines being like under scrutiny, or like failures, as well as I've talked about in the Saturn and Pisces video. Failures, like across the board. So you can kind of see like the importance also generating of just being like a super pro human being with like a lot of viable paths and a lot of like different skills and talents and health. You guys see how this is like wrapping around, and I'm kind of getting chills here as well, and all connecting together. It's like with a certain volatility that could just be during this time. We just have to be really pro individualistic, talented, healthy people. And I know that not all of us feel that that's super possible right now. If you've got some type of like hard health issue or some kind of like big debt problem, try to not feel hopeless with that, and try to see how even these situations can be resolved, or how some of these like failures happening as well may be a backhanded fortune to some of those situations, and to try to not get too attached to any type of limitation right now either. We are actually moving into a kind of like unlimited question zone, but because of that, the current status quos will have a bit of scattering, I feel. So attachment really is the downfall for a lot of people as we move closer to Pluto and Aquarius, because of course Aquarius rules the theme of detachment. And of course we've got the whole year pretty much still with Pluto and Capricorn. But I would try to detach as much as possible, and I'm talking about this in the 12 August readings, which are available on Patreon for now. I'm going to be talking about the importance of carving out a certain like self-personification that allows us to not basically be on our knees or in that Six of Pentacles archetype, like totally reliant on any one person or thing. This is like a certain thing that I hope to write about and talk more about in the future. It's something that I'm still not quite ready to really embody and speak about in a totally consolidated way, but it's already starting to come out in some of my readings about like a new type of self-perception and a new type of like chain breaking, bond breaking, sort of revolutionary way of thinking of ourselves as compared to these like grids of economy or grids of control, grids of just electricity as well. So there's a different way that the human can really energize and feel more stable at their own means, okay, without the reliance on certain concentrations of old world power. That's another conversation for another day, but August of 2023 is a month where this really starts to become real and consolidated, and where we're really seeing some of these like final moments of difficulty. And I think that it's important to cultivate love during this time. I think that it's important, like pets seem like a good area for people to focus on. Another area to focus on is like homes, gardens, lands, that especially things that are like owned outright, or like also collaborating or healing family bonds, just having like healthy central nervous system and muscles. Okay, you see, these are things that feel small to us, but they are like sometimes determinant of like whether we're reliant on certain super crazy, scary grids in the future as well. So August 2023, as a conclusion on the intuitive part, feels like a really vital time of clearing out debris from the path, innovating a greater collaborative capacity, withholding energy, withholding certain things for a future idea or generation, and bringing harmony to the mind and body to essentially not be so scrambled by all these scrambled things happening by all this scrambling. So let's talk just about the astrology. You all, I'm going to write down the timestamp really quick. I try to not spend too much time in video editing because that means less content. So not going to edit out these notes trying to get the timestamp. Okay, so we have a Mars trine Jupiter happening on the 1st of August. So we're entering the month of August with an incredible masculine injection. So we can know so clearly where there's stagnation, where things aren't working, where there's over-reliance. Keep an eye out, you all, for over-reliance, because 1st of August comes in, Mars trine Jupiter. You can basically just directly innovate or create a better system or a less reliant grid for yourself. Pay attention also to where you're not treated equally in any partnership. So if you're dealing with overbearing employers, overbearing business partners, anything that's like lordly, or like people have this certain like, pre-1700 like lordly face, those things are going to struggle in Pluto and Aquarius. And we want to kind of establish instead a more individualistic tone here, and probably start to dissociate ourselves just a little bit from that kind of arrogance, or also like just subversion or sublimation as well, that could be being placed on somebody in a higher hierarchy upon somebody in the lower hierarchy. We need to start finding other kinds of viable ways forward. At the same time, we have a Mercury opposite Saturn as well. I'm thinking that there is just there's going to be a really clear understanding of what mindsets have failed us, and what, failures. Okay, so failed mindsets coming right in August of 2023 too. So this month can be kind of heavy like this, where it's like I see every way that I've failed, or I see like my own patterns of stinking thinking or whatever. And that's going to be so healing for us to just kind of like resolve here and see it for what it is. So if you're having burnout as well, right? Jupiter trine Mars and Mercury opposite Saturn, it's good to just say, okay, I'm having burnout, and like admit it to yourself and start healing it. Anything that's a problem in your life, try to really, with Mercury opposite Saturn, right, with the retrograde coming on later this month, try to just acknowledge what the problem is so that it naturally moves into a state of healing. It's like once you acknowledge that something's off, once you verbalize, like I'm in burnout, or I have an addiction, or I'm in an abusive relationship, or I'm past tripping about my ex, or like whatever the shadowy issue is, once it's verbalized, it's already so much closer to being healed. A big part of healing is acknowledgement. So we really prevent healing when we say things like, okay, I'm not burned out, I'm just not operating in healthy enough systems. Okay, I'm not past tripping about my ex, I'm trying to like get closure. I'm not, you see, this is where we actually prevent the healing. So that's going to be a big part of August as well, is knowing where we're preventing the healing, getting that out of the way, re-acknowledging how things actually are, and then like really half or 3/4 of the work is already done at that point. Okay, we also have some really nice transits happening this month as well. So for example, on like the 13th of August, we have a Sun-Venus conjunction. Really lovely. We will have that wonderful ability to understand our style and the fire element. We're really getting a great injection of fire this month. Of course, starting in Leo season, having the North Node in Aries, having Venus in Leo, Sun in Leo. This is a really great month for falling back in love with yourself, okay? Falling back in love with your body, with who you are and what you're creating, and enjoying also the process of like refining, sculpting, or caring for your body in a more specific way. It's a good month also for romance or dating in general, especially that first part of the month. Okay, the main transits that we're having this month is Mercury retrograde, of course, in the sign of Virgo, starting on the 23rd of August. And then Uranus retrograde starting, I believe, on the 28th of August. I have it handwritten down. My handwriting's a bit hard to read there. I believe that's the 28th of August, either the 29th or the 28th. Okay, I think it's the 28th. Okay, so within a week, we have the two mind-oriented, communication-oriented, innovation, technology-oriented planets go retrograde. So yeah, honestly, guys, I have to predict like certain like electrical grid issues, communications issues, issues also with like social media or grid-based communication could come under quite heavy strain during this time. There could also be, yeah, just infrastructural weaknesses, structural weaknesses in general, and very personal too. So like having systems in your life that just don't make sense, living in places that don't make sense, or having to also pay really high bills, or having a certain weakness reflected in prices or reflected in spending. Of course, this is in the sign of Taurus and Virgo, earth, materials. So like it is about the communication grid, but I suppose there could then be something of like food or trade issues or food pricing, right? Certain issues with food transportation. There could be something along those lines with this, with a trine, retrograde trine of Uranus and Mercury in Taurus and Virgo. Jupiter also approaching up towards Uranus. And lots of material changes alongside, because we have the Earth trine, don't we, this month? Okay, yes, I'm just realizing Earth trine, Pluto in Capricorn, retrograde Earth trine. Okay, let's talk about that. It's not exact. Okay, so of course, Mercury is retrograde in Virgo at 19 degrees by the end of the month, Uranus at 23 degrees Taurus, and then Pluto at 28 degrees Capricorn. So this is wide, but it still has a meaning for the material, economic, and real grid-based systems of communication and trade are just going to be under a lot of strain during this month and probably for the next until like early 2024. Because of course Pluto and Uranus are moving so slow and they're retrograde. I think that For normal people, there can actually be a soothing quality to this, though, when we realize that, some of this stuff is just beyond our control. And some of this stuff is like, there's a margin to which we can change like our feeling of worth or our feeling of like material stability. There are major margins there. And that very much depends on the individual. But there are some like really big macro events happening when it comes to the way that things move. I'm talking trade, I'm talking supply and demand, stuff like that. And also the way that, currency or economy plays into that as well. There's just macro, and you don't need an astrologer to tell you that, like most people know that. But it's really in the stars right now too. And it's a long-term transit. It's not changing tomorrow. And it's been happening for a long time. This has been a 15-year cycle, really since 2007, 2008, when Pluto went into Capricorn. So it won't really be until probably this time next year that we have an understanding, once Pluto's getting more firmly into Aquarius, or even like 2 or 3 years from now, actually, that things are more firmly understood with a different change in collective consciousness. But what you can do in your own experience is try to just remove as many forms of negative strain as possible. So there's a balance, right, in life. And the North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra is going to be teaching us about this balance between how like humans need some amount of strain, to develop muscle, to develop calibration, to be viable in this 2-dimensional gravity-based Earth plane. If there's no strain, we basically lose all of our muscle and also go head into the clouds and we start to exist on a different plane. So there needs to be some strain, but also when we get too much strain, then there's injury, and that puts us back into that same exact place where we start losing muscle, or we lose also, because there's a brain muscle connection as well for most people that exists, where the chemical balance of the body is highly connected to the way that the muscles work, and that has a big meaning for the mental health and the appetite and the hormones, and those are under enough fire right now anyway, just from consumption and food quality and things like that. That's another thing with this Earth trine here. What's in the processed food? How is the food as quantified as it is? Like, there maybe shouldn't be as much as there is, but maybe it's like, things that increase the amount, chemically. So like processing and refinements and plastic. I'm kidding. But yeah, Uranus and Taurus, plastic. It's been a very plastic transit. So you can also start to deplastify your life a little bit. That could be a positive way to work with this energy, but it's hard for a lot of people. That just takes so many big lifestyle choices that are not glamorous in today's culture. And you can work more with natural fibers, bedding like latex or cotton or linen, wool, things that are like real, but that's expensive, and it costs, and doing what you can, but try to work more with like natural grid stuff, and trying to also generate relationships is important, you guys, in August. And if not in August, then for the rest of this year. I do see some people just having to like be on bed rest because of burnout during this month. I see some people having to like really like also go on like medicines or something in order to correct some type of overstrain. There's still a recovery process, I think, from the previous nodal axis and the generation of huge energy that took. But it's important just to know, like, as you're maybe going through a recovery process or as you're rejuvenating yourself, that friendships, like protected, pure friendships, are a really valuable construct now. And sure, romantic relationships, kind of. I mean, those are important for people too. But I really feel that friendship is where it's going to be at for a lot of people, just because isolationism or solitude feels very polarized to me. And there are some people who do it really well. There are some people who like master their own like self-economy as like entrepreneurs, or as also spiritual people, or monks or monastic lifestyles. That's something that's indicated with Saturn and Pisces. So I'm not saying that that's the wrong way forward, but that type of path, I think we'll just feel a little bit more deprived. But I suppose that's a part of certain spiritual paths as well. But if you're living like a real human experience, I just think that relationship, kinship, and friendship is important. But those relationships also take time to develop. So again, we're looking at longer term developments, and it's not about being best friends with somebody after 2 weeks of knowing them, and then like filling in the gaps of who somebody is with your imagination. That we have a lot of trauma still here because of that type of lifestyle implement, I guess. So it takes time, like also romantic. So if you're like single and super solitary, it's good to start putting like a rod in the fire or starting to put yourself out there, just because of how long it takes to really gain trust into the life, as we are at a larger term working with generating new forms of trust here, okay, at both economic and interpersonal levels. And with that, everyone, I will leave you for the month of August 2023. Come check out my Patreon page where you can find all 12 August 2023 signs, forecasts. They are only available on Patreon, and they should be uploading around the 1st of the month. Although already there are the July readings as well as T-Chat, so a lot of premium content that still totally apply to this period of time that we're in. I will link that below as the top link and in the comments. Otherwise, your likes, comments, and subscribes here on YouTube are so helpful. Thank you all so much for being here, and have a great August. Bye.